all of these options are great if you're someone who really likes physical books and just needs a way to get them without breaking the bank. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Leandra, the TBR0, and my goal is to slowly but surely lessen my physical TBR one book at a time. Yes, the book's right behind me. If you are also on that journey, please make yourself known in the comments. I love to talk with other booktubers, other avid readers who like to focus and prioritize their physical TBRs like me, so please introduce yourself. For today, I thought it could be fun and informative to talk about my own strategies for reading ethically and on a budget. So these strategies, these experiences are going to be in the $0 to $1 range. I won't be talking about anything that's more luxurious or expensive that would be in the $2 or $3 range. If that's something you'd be interested in, I can certainly make a video about it. But because I am personally not there myself, I thought it would be more helpful. And if you are coming to this video, you also probably are more interested in ways to read books completely for free or on a very low budget that are very cheap options. But first, I just want to remind you that you should be liking the video and subscribing as soon as you realize that this is the type of content for you. And don't forget to ring that little bell, because then you'll be notified every time another video like this pops up on my channel. Let's get into it. I forgot that I've been trying to also implement discussion throughout each video, like an update of what I'm actually reading, so I'm going to do that quickly. Right now I am still reading The Laughing Policeman by I'm so scared. They're two Swedish authors and I'm really liking the book, but I'm so nervous about saying their names. So Maj Sjöwall and Per Valle. I am saying that only with my own experience in French and Dutch, so I'm so sorry if you are a Swedish watcher and you had to just cover up your ears because it felt like nails on a chalkboard. But they are a duo who are Swedish, and they were writing the Martin Beck series for quite some time, and it was quickly translated into English. This was originally published in 1968 in Swedish and then published in English in 1970, which is kind of crazy and really impressive because a lot of times, unfortunately, books don't get translated very quickly after they've become very popular in their own countries. But it is a crime noir, very much similar to hard-boiled American noir. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check it out. I am loving it so far. On to the video. So starting with physical books, I think that a lot of this is going to be pretty common knowledge, but I think it's important to touch all of our bases. So firstly, let's consider who your friends, family, and even coworkers are around you. Do you have any other fellow avid readers that are in your immediate vicinity? Because that could be a great way for you to exchange books. Ask your friends, ask your family members, is there a book that they absolutely adore that they really want to talk with someone else about? That could be a great way to gain more access to literature. They will share the book with you. Maybe they might give you the book or just let you borrow it. And then even better, you have someone that you can actually talk with about this book immediately, and that's not something we usually get to do. Of course, in this process, you are agreeing to be respectful of their own library. Make sure that you are trying to give the book back in the same condition that it was given to you, because when we're giving our books away, even if it's for a brief period of time, we are trusting you with taking care of that book. So just keep that in mind, but I do think that that is a great way to try to connect with other people while also enjoying one of your favorite hobbies, which is reading. So remember, coworkers, family members, friends, even other people's friends, if you know that your friend has a friend who loves to read, try to expand your community a little bit more, and that can be a great way. I actually still have a few books on my own shelves that I borrowed from friends that I haven't read yet, but I've been meaning to prioritize it, and they have books of mine. It's a give and take process, and it's actually lovely. Speaking of those friends and family, make sure that they're aware that you're interested in gaining more books, and in that case, they can prioritize those as gifts for gift events. So it can be maybe your birthday's coming up, different religious holidays that encourage gift exchanging. It could be an anniversary or even a milestone that you would achieve and someone else being so proud of you and wanting to celebrate with you would then give you a gift. Make sure that they know that you like getting books. And a really easy way to make sure that they're getting books that you would be interested in is obviously talking with them about it, letting them know which titles that you're excited about, but also there are many online options for creating wish lists. that you can share with people. It can stay a surprise. Obviously, Amazon's the most well-known one. I personally try not to purchase from Amazon for ethical reasons, but it is also important to know that this video is in no way meant to act as a gatekeeper to those who are trying to access books and literature. So if Amazon is the only way that you can gain access to books, maybe because of price, maybe because of geographical location, not all of us have the privilege of having independent bookstores or even large chain bookstores near us in driving or walking distance, but there are other options beyond Amazon for wish lists. Bookshop.org does wish lists, which is amazing, and they also provide proceeds to independent bookstores. You can select which bookstore you want the proceeds to go to, which is even better. There are also a lot of independent bookstores that have their own websites that also provide wish list options. So if you have an independent bookstore near you that you absolutely love, see if they have a wish list option on their website. That could be a great way for you to ensure that your friends and family are investing their own money in something that you genuinely want. Because while you're trying to be conscious of your own money, we're also trying to be conscious of theirs too, to make sure that they don't feel like they're wasting money on you when you wouldn't even really enjoy that book. So keep that in mind. Another great option is your local library. I'm someone who actually works at a library, so I can't shut up enough about how great it is to support libraries and let them support you in what you want to read. Libraries are also great because they usually have DVDs, they have audiobooks, which I'm kind of getting into a different section of this video already, but they also have physical books. They have so many different options and resources for you. Usually libraries are also in some type of group or organization where they're connected to other libraries, library systems. So back in New York, when I was living there, I was actually very lucky to be working. I wasn't actually working in a library then, but that would have been lovely. I was a patron at this one library where they actually had a library system connecting 4 different counties of libraries. So I had access to physical books, the physical collections of about 15 to 20 different libraries. That is amazing. And usually they do weekly or daily trips across different libraries to make sure you're getting your books quickly. So just ask your library what connections they have, because sometimes I think we think if we especially live in like a smaller community with a smaller library that those are the only books we have access to, but a lot of times they actually work in a library system. And the one I live in right now, the county that I live in, that is actually a 1 county system, but it still provides me access to 5 different libraries. So please keep that in mind, and supporting your local library is great, and there are multiple reasons why it actually might be more beneficial financially to read a book from the library first. Firstly, libraries are getting new books in every single month. We do book orders every single month, so usually you can get access to brand new books very quickly. Also, it's a great way to be sure if you actually love this book. Last year, at the end of 2022, I did a 9 least favorite books video, and I can do a link in the description if you're interested. And I think about 5 or 6 of those books ended up being library books. So I was over the moon. I was so proud of myself that my least favorite books were library books. So that means I didn't waste money on them, but I also was able to support my local library by borrowing those books and kind of keeping their existence important in the community. So keep that in mind, because a lot of times these brand new books are somewhere near 25, at least US dollars, and that can really break the bank if you're buying a couple of them. So keep that in mind. And there were some books that I absolutely adored, and then I then proceeded to buy after reading the library copy because I wanted to make sure I had access to it to read it again. So there are other ways that you can continue supporting those authors as well. Just see if you love the book first. Speaking of libraries, you not only usually have access to your local community, to your county library system or multiple county library system, but most libraries that I know of that I've interacted with participate in what's called interlibrary loans. The acronym lingo is ILLs. It's dependent on where you are, dependent on what your library participates in, but at least the library I work at and am a patron with, we do ILLs for the entire state of Pennsylvania. So even if our own library doesn't have it, if the libraries in our system don't have it, we can then reach out to libraries all across Pennsylvania. That includes public libraries, that includes any university library as well, depending on if you're doing research or if you're looking for something specific. You have access to all of those. It can take some time, but it allows you to get access to this book, even if it's a bit rare, without having to shell out any money to get it. And I've also heard other libraries do a kind of national situation where they can actually reach out to libraries across state lines and do that. So again, just communicate with your library, see what options they have, because this really can save you so much money while also supporting a civil service organization that's so important that we need to make sure continues to exist. Even if you aren't an American citizen and you are in a different country, find ways to support your own local libraries. A less traditional library that is out there is also the little free libraries. LFLs, I think that they're called. From what I can tell, they also tend to have a website where you can actually find the little free libraries that have registered in your area, and that is a great way to, again, exchange books, see what books are out there that maybe you can borrow. If you don't love it, you know what you can do? Just return it to that little free library for someone else to grab. All of these options are really great, especially if you're someone who only likes to read physical books. I know that can be really difficult, especially in a world where ebooks and audiobooks are usually a bit more readily available, but all of these options are great if you're someone who really likes physical books and just needs a way to get them without breaking the bank. I also totally forgot this, but a lot of libraries that at least I've worked at or have been a patron to also usually have free sections. So if there are books that they've decided are no longer going to be in their collection, either because they haven't circulated very well or because maybe they're a little bit damaged, there will be a free section. My library has that, and a lot of patrons absolutely love going through there, finding some mysteries, finding some romances, historical fiction, all of the different genres, children's literature as well, and then they can just take those books home, and that's great. So remember, your library, your friends, your family, pretty much anyone in your local community, ask around, see how they access their books, and see if there's a way that you can participate in that as well. As Leandra the TBR0, I am embarrassed to admit that I almost forgot to mention that you should also be looking at your own shelves. So obviously, if you are someone who already owns a lot of books that you haven't read yet, take the time to figure out what books you already own, because at least someone like me, there have been times where I haven't thought I owned this book, and then I've looked at my shelves and realized I have owned it. So if you're someone who really has a lot of books, then remember to reacquaint yourself with your shelves every once in a while, and just take the time to, say, read the back of the book, read the inside flap of the dust jacket, really figure out if this is a book that you're interested in, because I think sometimes we don't really take the time. We judge a book by its cover or by its title, and we don't really know if we're going to be interested in it. Take the time. Maybe even check out some reviews, see what people are saying about this book, see what people are saying about the author even, or figure out ways to make it a bit fun, gamify it. I personally like to throw in suggestions into a jar, shake it up, and then pull it out and see what I can find. I treat it as a bookshelf scavenger hunt. I have done a couple videos like that, and I plan on doing more. I just, for some reason, haven't done it in a while, so I'll do links in the description too. But they can be like a theme, they can be a genre, they can be maybe a certain shelf, and then you're forced to look through those books on that shelf and take it, especially if you're someone who really likes to set up TBRs, like monthly TBR lists where you're like, okay, I'm going to be reading these 6-7 books this month. Then gamifying it with a scavenger hunt or with some other TBR game can be a great way to force yourself to really get to know your shelves better, see what gems are in there, because if you bought them at one point, then you were obviously interested in them. Of course, our reading choices, our reading preferences change, but it definitely doesn't help if we never look at our shelves. So don't forget to do that. Okay, moving on to ebooks and audiobooks. A lot of my suggestions and my own personal experiences in consuming those formats go hand in hand, so I'm going to talk about them together. To bring up your library again, it's important to know that there are multiple library apps that you can have access to because you're a member of a library, and that immediately gives you access to ebooks and audiobooks and actually a few other things as well. The two library apps that I personally use, one is called Libby, and that is synonymous with what some libraries call their overdrive. So these are books that they have purchased. They've purchased the ebook version of it, so it's in their own personal library. So every different library system has its own number and different titles of books that they have. Keep that in mind, especially if you want to be a member of multiple libraries. Then you'll have access to multiple libraries, Libby or overdrive options, and this includes audiobooks and ebooks. They often usually have graphic novels in there too, or comics. There are also magazines as well. So just there are so many different options that you can have access to in ebook or audiobook form. You just have to make sure that you actually take the time to look into this. So Libby, you can have an app on your phone, but you also can access it online. So if you don't have a smartphone, you can still enjoy Libby through the computer. And on top of that, another great feature that Libby allows you is that if you happen to own a tablet, like a reading tablet, maybe a Kindle for instance, you can actually send the books that you borrow through Libby to your Kindle rather than reading it on your phone or on your computer. So these are great options. I've done that myself, where if I borrow a book from Libby, I will say if I want it to actually be sent to my Kindle, and that's been great for me. So keep that in mind. And also, you can possibly keep in mind that you don't have to only be a member of your local library. At least in the United States, I can't speak for abroad, but in the United States, many major city library systems allow access to their state residents. So New York Public Library, for instance, allows you to get an e-card, so you have access to their ebook and audiobook collection through being a New York State resident. I am currently a Pennsylvania State resident at the moment, so actually I am also a member of the Philadelphia Free Library. So check out, if you live in Pennsylvania, if you live in New York, if you live in another state, see if your major city library systems allow for state residents to have access, because not only do I have access to my county library system through Libby, but I also have access to the Libby that is associated with Philadelphia Free Library, and I have honestly never had a difficult time finding a book through them because their collection is so big, because they're so large. Again, Libby is amazing, but there's also another app that you might be interested in, and that is Hoopla. Now, this is dependent on if the library system that you are a member of has a subscription to it, because I do believe that it's a fee for the library to participate in Hoopla. So my library system allows you to get 4 borrows a month from Hoopla, and that's another app you can have on your phone, but again, you can have access to it on any smart device or computer. What's amazing about Hoopla is that you not only have access to audiobooks or ebooks for free, but you also have access to full CDs, which is so fascinating. So if you really want to listen to a CD, one particular artist, or check it out, maybe before you want to buy something, that's one thing you can do. They also have access to different TV series and movies, and you can use those for your borrows as well. So even if you have no interest in actually reading or listening to books through any type of digital format, but you do want to check out some movies, like on your smart TV, if you have a Roku or something like that, or on your computer, or TV series, like check out Hoopla either way, because it's actually amazing. And I've borrowed like TV episodes before as well as movies. Keep that in mind. Don't forget Hoopla and Libby. Check to see if your library has access to those. They'll definitely have access to Libby, but Hoopla is the one that it's really dependent on if the library decides to have an expense like that. For instance, Philadelphia Free Library doesn't do that because they already have such a large collection that they probably don't feel the need to then spend money to be a part of Hoopla, if that makes sense. There are also a lot of other online free options, especially if you're someone who likes certain classics, like older books, or if you just want to read a classic but you don't want to physically buy it because you might not be a big classic fan, and that's something that I personally am like. I really love classic mysteries, but any other type of classic lit in the classic canon, I'm really hesitant to buy because sometimes I just don't like them. So I'm really particular when I'm reading classics. So if you're someone who wants to try classics, but you're okay with doing ebook or audiobook options, then I would also check out Gutenberg, the Gutenberg Project, or Project Gutenberg. So you can do Gutenberg.org. There's the UK, there's Australia, there's Canada even. I've used all 3 of those in my own work as someone who does research for the She Done It podcast. So you can get full books, full stories through that, and it's amazing. So I highly recommend that. And it also has multiple options of downloading or accessing it. You can either read it online, you can download it as like an EPUB. So there's just different options that are great for those who are big fans of ebooks and don't want to spend money on it. There is also archives.org. I actually was told about this thanks to one of my own subscribers, Sherry. She's a big fan of it, and it's basically an internet archives that allow you to gain ebooks or physical books. Not physical books, I apologize, I misspoke there. Ebooks, and you get the full versions, and apparently you also can choose the voice for the audiobook. There are usually different versions, whether it's a different accent or a woman or a man. So if you have a certain preference, that's great too. And again, all free online, so highly recommend that. I haven't personally used it, but I have heard from a very reputable source, that is Sherry, and so I think that that could be a great option for you too. Another option for those who love audiobooks that I've personally used is actually YouTube. So if you really want to read a book, but you also want to listen and you can't seem to find access to it, or you don't want to spend, say, $20, $25 on the audiobook, then I think that you should honestly look up the title and author and then write audiobook in the YouTube search bar and see if there is an audiobook available. I've done this multiple times. I've done it with Emma by Jane Austen. I have done it with a few other mysteries as well. And I've done it with Shakespeare plays, and I've done it with a few YA romance books as well back in the day. So don't think that it's only a certain kind of book that could be offered as an audiobook. There are many different genres. I've seen dark romance as an option too, and as I've said, I've seen mysteries as well. I believe 450 from Paddington, for instance, Agatha Christie, I almost listened to the audiobook while reading the physical copy as well, but I ended up choosing not to do that. But that just shows you the plethora of titles that YouTube for free is offered, because different audiobook organizations or community service kind of projects are doing that. So make sure that you are aware that that is an option if you love audiobooks. I believe that that's it, to be honest, for all of my different suggestions for those that I personally use myself. The only other thing that I would offer, and that's only if you actually have this subscription service already, is that if you are an Amazon Prime member, I am someone who isn't a big fan of Amazon. I am an Amazon Prime member mainly because I'm a student, and it gives me a cheaper option to do that specifically. So like if I need books or other things for my graduate program, then that's the main reason why I'm utilizing it. I'm also the one who spends it. What is it? I'm also the one who pays for it. That's what it is. I'm also the one who pays for it for my family. So my parents and other, family members get to take advantage of my own Prime account with the cheaper option. So don't tell Amazon. Usually it's for the free shipping, or it's for maybe access to Prime Video, but there's also an option for Prime Reading. A lot of us know are more comfortable or more aware of Kindle Unlimited, but there's also Prime Reading, where you get a huge access to a number of titles under Prime Reading. If you're someone who already has Prime and you're considering getting KU, Kindle Unlimited, or you're just trying to figure out what you can do, maybe don't buy ebooks yet. You don't need to. I've literally never bought an ebook in my life. I've never bought an audiobook in my life, and I'm pretty sure I will be adamant about never doing that, because I don't personally have any interest in doing that. So if you're already a Prime member, then consider Prime Reading, because they have a lot of new and current or old titles as well. Just keep that in mind if you're already a Prime member. All right, that's the end of the video. I hope that you found these tips really helpful. If you have your own tips that I didn't mention, please leave a comment and share the wealth of knowledge. This is a community where we need to support each other. So remember to check out your own shelves, but also if you find your shelves are a little bit stale, you're looking for new things, there are a million free or super cheap options out there. Thanks everyone for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and yeah, say hello. So I hope to see you in the next one. Bye everybody.